I stood in my father's old study, staring at the empty space on the wall where his prized painting had hung for 20 years. The outline of its frame was still visible against the faded wallpaper, like a ghost mocking my family's legacy. Looking for something, Diana's voice dripped with false sweetness from the doorway. My stepmother hadn't even waited a full month after Dad's funeral to start decluttering the house. "Where's the painting?" I asked, fighting to keep my voice steady. "The one Dad always said was for me." She laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "Oh, that old thing. I sold it at the yard sale last weekend. Got $50 for it, probably overcharged, honestly. It was just taking up space." My blood ran cold. The painting had been in our family for generations, passed down from my great-grandfather, who'd been an art dealer in Vienna before World War II. Dad used to tell me stories about it, how it was special, how one day its true value would be revealed. "You had no right," I whispered, hands clenching into fists. "Dad left explicit instructions in his will." "Which hasn't been read yet," Diana cut in, examining her perfectly manicured nails. "Until then, as his widow, I can dispose of household items as I see fit." "Your father may have filled your head with fairy tales about that painting's worth, Emma, but it was just another dusty old piece cluttering up my house." My house, I wanted to scream. This had been my mother's house first, before she died when I was 6. Before Dad married Diana 2 years later, thinking I needed a mother's influence. All she influenced was my decision to move out at 18 and put myself through art school, refusing to touch Dad's money while she controlled it. Now, at 26, I was an art authenticator at Preston and Mills, one of the most prestigious auction houses in New York. Dad had been so proud when I got the job, saying it was in my blood. "Your great-grandfather would have loved this," he told me during one of our Sunday dinners, the painting watching over us from its place of honor on the wall. "Who bought it?" I demanded. "I'll buy it back. I'll pay whatever." "Oh, I don't remember." Diana waved her hand dismissively. "Some old woman." She seemed quite excited about the frame, said something about it being perfect for her grandson's finger painting. The frame. Of course she was excited about the frame. My hands started shaking as I remembered what Dad had told me about it on my 21st birthday. "The frame is Austrian, pre-war," he'd explained, his eyes twinkling with secret knowledge. "Your great-grandfather had it made specially. Look at the craftsmanship, the detail. Remember, Emma, sometimes the most valuable things are hidden in plain sight." I'd spent years studying that painting, first as a child fascinated by its mysterious dark colors, then as an art student beginning to understand its technique, and finally as a professional who could recognize the telltale signs of something extraordinary. But Dad had always stopped me from having it authenticated, saying the time wasn't right. "Why now?" I asked Diana. "Why not wait for the will reading next week?" She smiled, that same cold smile she'd worn at Dad's funeral while accepting condolences from his friends and colleagues. "The house needs a fresh start, new energy. All these old things were just weighing us down." Us. As if she hadn't already started dating one of Dad's business partners, barely waiting for the flowers on his grave to wilt. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through local Facebook yard sale groups. Which day was the sale? Maybe someone posted pictures. "Oh, put it away," Diana snapped, her facade cracking slightly. "It's done. The painting's gone. Focus on the future, Emma. That's what your father would have wanted." No, what Dad would have wanted was for his only daughter to inherit the painting he protected for decades. The painting he'd risked everything to keep in the family during the financial crisis of 2008, when Diana had pushed him to sell it along with other family heirlooms. I left the study, my mind racing. Diana watched me go, that smug smile still playing on her lips. She thought she'd won, thought she'd erased another piece of my family's history from this house. But she didn't know what I knew. She didn't know about the conversation I'd had with Dad 3 months ago, just before his unexpected heart attack. "The painting's story is finally ready to be told," he'd said, his voice unusually serious. "After the will reading, take it to your colleagues at Preston and Mills. Show them the frame first. They'll understand its significance." I'd been confused then, but now his words took on a new urgency. What had he known? What was hidden in that frame that made Diana so eager to get rid of it before the will was read? Back in my apartment that night, I spread my research across my desk. Old family photographs, Dad's letters. Everything I had about the painting's history. The image itself was dark, moody, a classical scene that had always seemed slightly odd for its supposed period. I'd noticed inconsistencies in the brushwork, details that didn't quite match the attributed date. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, my colleague at Preston and Mills who specialized in European art from the 1920s and 30s. Found something interesting about your great-grandfather's gallery in Vienna. Can we meet tomorrow before work? I texted back immediately, yes. But the painting's gone. Diana sold it. His response came quickly. Wait. When? We need to find it. Don't tell anyone else yet. My heart started pounding. Marcus was one of the most respected experts in his field. If he was this concerned. I called my best friend Lucy, who lived in Dad's neighborhood. Hey, any chance you went to Diana's yard sale last weekend? Or know someone who did? Diana had a yard sale. Lucy sounded confused. I drive past your dad's house every day. There hasn't been any yard sale. The room seemed to tilt slightly. Diana had lied, but why and where was the painting really? I spent the next few hours making calls, checking with neighbors, searching online listings. Nothing. No yard sale. No painting. No trace of where it might have gone. At midnight, my phone rang. An unknown number. Ms. Emma Sullivan. A man's voice, heavily accented. I believe we need to discuss your great-grandfather's painting and your stepmother's recent activities. Who is this? A friend of your father's. We've been watching that painting for a very long time. Meet me tomorrow at the Artemis Gallery on 67th Street. Come alone. The line went dead. I sat in the darkness of my apartment, staring at my phone. Dad's words echoed in my memory. Sometimes the most valuable things are hidden in plain sight. What had Diana stumbled into? What was she trying to hide? More importantly, what had my great-grandfather hidden in that frame that was worth erasing from our family's history? Morning couldn't come fast enough. I barely slept, my mind spinning with possibilities. The painting itself had never seemed particularly valuable. A dark scene of classical figures that even my trained eye had trouble fully interpreting. But the frame. Dad had always drawn my attention to the frame. At 6 a.m., I met Marcus at our usual coffee shop near Preston and Mills. He looked like he hadn't slept either, his normally immaculate suit slightly rumpled. Emma, he said as soon as I sat down, your great-grandfather's gallery, it wasn't just any gallery. He was one of the primary dealers working to protect important works during the rise of the Nazi regime. And that frame. What about it? Marcus lowered his voice. There were rumors, after the war, about how certain dealers saved invaluable masterpieces. They would take lesser works that wouldn't draw attention, and use them to hide the real treasures. Special frames, false backs. My hands started shaking so badly I had to set down my coffee. Are you saying? The painting everyone saw. Marcus continued, it might have been just a cover. The real masterpiece could have been hidden behind it, preserved in that frame for decades. Your father must have known, must have been waiting for the right time. And now Diana sold it, I whispered. Or at least, that's what she claims. Marcus's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? I told him about my discoveries last night, the non-existent yard sale, the mysterious phone call. With each detail, his expression grew more serious. Emma, he said finally, if I'm right about what that frame might have contained, we're not talking about a minor family heirloom. We could be looking at one of the most significant art discoveries of the century. How significant? He wrote a number on a napkin and slid it across the table. I stared at the zeros, my breath catching. That's the low estimate, he added quietly. If it's what I think it is, and if it's still intact. My phone buzzed. Diana? I ignored it. The man who called. I said he wanted to meet at the Artemis Gallery. Do you know it? Marcus's face went pale. Emma, the Artemis Gallery isn't just a gallery. It's a front. They deal in, let's say, items of questionable provenance. If they're involved. Another text from Diana. We need to talk. Now, it's about the painting. I showed Marcus the message. She knows something's wrong. She must have discovered. Be careful, he warned. If the Artemis Gallery is involved, this goes way beyond a family inheritance dispute. These people, they don't play by normal rules. I stood up, gathering my things. The will reading is in 5 days. Diana must have had a reason for getting rid of the painting before then. I need to find out what she did with it before it disappears forever. Emma, Marcus caught my arm. Let me help. I can contact some colleagues. People who specialize in recovering lost art. Whatever your stepmother's involved in. No, I said firmly. Dad protected this painting for a reason. He trusted our family to keep it safe. I need to handle this myself. As I left the coffee shop, my phone buzzed one more time. A message from the unknown number. Time is running out. The painting's true worth is about to be discovered. Is your stepmother ready for the consequences? The Artemis Gallery looked abandoned at first glance. Dust covered the windows, and a closed for renovation sign hung crookedly on the door. But as I approached, I noticed the security cameras, high-end, carefully concealed, tracking my every move. Before I could knock, the door opened. A tall man in an impeccable suit stood there, his silver hair and European features somehow familiar. Miss Sullivan, he said softly, I am Victor Keller. I knew your great-grandfather in Vienna. My heart stopped. This man had to be in his 90s, yet his eyes were sharp, alert. That's impossible. You'd have to be very old. He smiled. Yes. Please, come inside. We have much to discuss. The gallery's interior was nothing like its decrepit exterior. Museum-quality lighting illuminated pristine walls, and climate control hummed quietly in the background. But what caught my eye was the painting on the far wall, my father's painting. How did you? Your stepmother, Victor said, his accent thickening with disgust. Sold it to us this morning. She thought she was being clever, getting rid of evidence before the will reading. She had no idea she was walking into a trap 70 years in the making. He led me to the painting, now removed from its frame. The frame itself sat on a workbench, its intricate woodwork somehow more complex than I remembered. Watch, Victor said, pressing something on the frame's edge. With a soft click, a hidden compartment opened. Inside lay another canvas, carefully preserved. As Victor gently removed it, I gasped. The colors were vibrant, the brushwork unmistakable. Even with my trained eye, I could hardly believe what I was seeing. The lost Klimt, I whispered. The one that disappeared from Vienna in 1938. Victor nodded. Your great-grandfather was its last legitimate owner. When the Nazis came, he knew they would take it. So he hid it, inside a frame holding a lesser work, a clever forgery painted specifically to conceal the truth. He entrusted it to your grandfather, who passed it to your father. And Dad was waiting for the right time to reveal it. I finished, remembering his words about the painting's story being ready to be told. Yes, he contacted me 3 months ago. We were making arrangements to authenticate it properly to establish the chain of ownership. Then he died, I said quietly, and Diana tried to sell it before anyone could discover the truth. Victor's face darkened. She didn't just try to sell it. She made a deal with people who would have erased its history, laundered it through private collections until its true provenance was lost forever. People who would have cheated you out of your inheritance and your family's legacy. My phone buzzed again. Diana still trying to reach me. This time I answered. Where are you? She demanded. We need to talk about the Klimt, I said calmly. Her sharp intake of breath was all the confirmation I needed. Don't worry, Diana. I know exactly where it is. Emma listened to me, her voice turned soothing, manipulative. Whatever you think you know, we can work this out. That painting, we could share. Miss Sullivan is with me. Victor took the phone. Perhaps you remember me, Mrs. Sullivan? We met this morning when you tried to sell stolen art worth millions for a mere $50,000. Diana's next words were lost in a stream of panicked protests. The authorities have already been notified, Victor continued. Your buyers, by the way, were undercover agents. We've been watching that painting for a very long time, waiting for someone to make exactly the mistake you did. He handed me back the phone just in time to hear Diana's world crumble. Emma, please, she begged. I didn't know. I just wanted. Your father left everything tied up in trusts and conditions. I needed money. When those men approached me about the painting, you tried to steal my inheritance, I said flatly. Just like you tried to steal everything else that mattered to Dad. The sound of sirens filtered through the phone. Diana's voice turned frantic. They're here. Emma, help me. I'm your stepmother. We're family. I hung up. Victor was already carefully returning the Klimt to its hiding place. The frame truly is a masterpiece, he mused. Your great-grandfather was a genius. Not only did he save the painting, but he ensured it would find its way back to the rightful owners. What happens now? Now, Miss Sullivan, you become one of the most important private art owners in the world. The Clint's value, with its remarkable provenance and historical significance, I would estimate 12 million at minimum. But its true worth, the story it tells about courage and preservation of culture in the face of tyranny, that is priceless. The next week passed in a blur. Diana was arrested, along with her conspiracy to sell stolen art. The will reading revealed what I'd already suspected. Dad had left me everything, with Diana's inheritance contingent on her protecting specific family assets, including the painting. Preston and Mills handled the authentication, with Marcus leading the team. The media attention was overwhelming. Lost Clint discovered. Nazi-looted masterpiece returns. Art world sensation hidden in plain sight. But the moment that meant the most came when Victor showed me one last secret. In the frame's hidden compartment, behind where the Clint had rested for so long, was a photograph. My great-grandfather stood proudly in his Vienna gallery, the painting displayed behind him. Next to it was the frame, the same frame that had protected its secret for over 70 years. On the back, in faded ink, he had written, "For my family, some treasures are worth more than gold. Protect them well." I had the photograph framed and hung it beside the restored Klimt in my father's study. Now my study. The painting's dark twin, the forgery that had guarded it for so long, hung on the opposite wall. Together they told a story of family, of courage, and of justice finally served. Deanna wrote to me from prison, still begging for forgiveness. I kept her letters in a box but never replied. Some betrayals go too deep for forgiveness. Instead, I focused on honoring my family's legacy. The Klimt would eventually go to a museum, but not as a loan or donation. It would be displayed with its full story. The story of a family who protected beauty and truth through generations, who understood that some inheritances are measured not in dollars but in dedication. Victor became a regular visitor, sharing stories of the old days in Vienna, helping me understand the weight of the legacy I now carried. "Your father would be proud," he told me one evening. "You've proven yourself worthy of your great-grandfather's trust." I often sit in my study late at night, looking at the painting that caused so much turmoil. Its colors seem to shift in the dim light, telling different stories depending on how you look at it. Just like my father always said, sometimes the most valuable things are hidden in plain sight. But he taught me something even more important. The true value of an inheritance isn't just in its price tag. It's in the history it carries, the lessons it teaches, and the legacy it leaves behind. Deanna's greed had led her to see only dollar signs, to betray family for quick profit. But my father, his father, and his father before him, they had seen something greater. They had protected not just a painting, but a piece of history, a testament to the power of art to survive dark times. As for me, I learned that some fortunes are measured not in millions, but in the strength of the principles we choose to uphold. Every time I look at that painting, I'm reminded that my true inheritance wasn't just the Klimt or the money it's worth. It was the integrity that kept it safe for generations. The painting's value may be $12 million, but its lesson was priceless. Sometimes the greatest wealth lies not in what we own, but in how we honor what we've been entrusted to protect.